Brian Wright, Daily B 109. What am I talking about? Old school versus new school, and why it really doesn't matter. Hey, it's Brian Wright from BrianWright732.com and fitin.com, PHITIN.com. I got involved on a thread yesterday that was someone posted on a martial arts business site how they have gone against the tradition that they were brought up in to accommodate what they recognize in their community as a changing mentality. So they took like traditional forms and a lot of traditional things out of the structure of their classes, and they made classes in what they felt was more engaging. And then other people started chiming in that were more traditionalists that were like, well, you're not really doing martial arts. What separates you from gymnastics? And then the guy was like, well, we kick and punch. And they were like, well, you know, if you replace kicking and punching with tumbling, you're just doing gymnastics. Like you're doing a fitness fun program. You're not really doing martial arts anymore, and blah, blah, blah. But the main point from the new school person was that they saw a need in their community for the discipline factor of martial arts, but he was getting pushback on how he was teaching when he was using a traditional model. So we modified the traditional model to accommodate the community to get more people involved to create the positive effect that he wanted. So I'm not passing judgment on either side, new school or old school. The guy that considers himself to be traditional or the guy that considers himself to be progressive. When it comes to pure business, whichever person is, making the profit that created a business model that works effectively, that's the business. You can't, go at the methods if the person is having a positive impact on his community and is having an honest exchange with the consumer that is a mutually beneficial trade, then the person is doing good business. Now, the person that is maintaining a traditional model and not maintaining their business is a poor business person, but may be a good traditional martial artist. Both have things to teach each other. The discipline of tradition, the progressive attitude of new school, the successful business owner working with the non-successful business owner. If the two of them would have a conversation without ego, could probably help each other bridge the gap and be more profitable. Now, here's the thing about the new school, old school argument that always drives me nuts. Anything that's considered different ends up being thrown into this new school and gets hammered by the old school people. Now, the one thing about old school is that at some point, that was new school too. Anything that lasts started at some point and was new and was different. And it evolved over time into being considered traditional just by longevity. So if we dismiss everything due to how long it's been around or that it's just different than what we do, we're missing the opportunity to have a real discussion about who we are, what we do, and what we're ultimately looking to achieve. I honestly don't care what anyone does if they're honest about what they're looking to achieve and what it is they actually do. So if someone is doing something that is basically a glorified gymnastics class that does not have real combative application, and they're honest about that, where they teach martial arts purely as a physical activity to provide whatever, it could be discipline and structure and fitness and whatnot, I don't have a problem with it. As long as they're not trying to say that something that may be a little bit more athletic and flashy that is not trained in a way for application, the person's not saying, you're going to be the next great champion or you're street lethal, but pushes it more like, you're just a better person by consistently doing something that is good for your body and your brain and your spirit and whatever. So I don't have a problem with that. And then the traditional guy who's achieving the same thing, which is a body, mind, and spirit thing, and as long as they're honest about what they practice and how they practice it and what they're ultimately looking to achieve, I don't have a problem with any of it. It's just the guy who is doing one thing in actual application, but saying they're doing something else, that's the guy I have a problem with. And anyone who comes into a business conversation throwing stones at old school, new school, or whatever, you're wrong. If someone has found a model that is successfully achieving what they set out to achieve, they're a good business person. You want to argue about martial arts, who's a martial artist or not, or whatever, it's a gray area. Everyone has an opinion about it. And again, the one problem we get in this industry is we are so self-hating that anyone who does something that's different than us, there has to be something wrong with it, because of course we're the best because we've devoted our lives to what we do. And it's just a ridiculous conversation that we continue to have that continues to divide the community. Instead of looking to the positive aspects of what everyone does and creating teachable moments for ourselves, we fight over semantics. We would be much better off and much more self-serving if we would look at somebody that's doing something different, but it's working for them, that their business is successful, they're engaging their customer in a positive way, they are setting and achieving goals. Look at how they do that, and then see how you can implement some of their tactics and strategies into the way that you operate. So you can teach traditional martial arts with a modern marketing platform. You can teach new school stuff with traditional values. There's absolutely an exchange that can happen that can be beneficial. And who are any of us to define what is beneficial or effective or practical in today's day and age? Someone may be running around in a pink uniform, blasting loud music and having superhero days and whatever the hell they want to do, and another guy could be wearing what is called a traditional uniform with his traditional placement of patches or no patches at all, and their belt structure and their kata and whatever, and they're creating an effective training environment for their people. Nobody's wrong if they're getting success with their consumer, and the success is not just they're extracting income and living a nice life, but if they're creating an income for themselves while creating a real positive situation that allows people to simply be better, why don't we all just stop fighting about it? It's nonsense. So old school and new school is nonsense, because old school was at some point was new school and it evolved to whatever it is. So maybe we should give people the opportunity to evolve into something. I'm not saying that we're constantly having to reinvent what we do, because martial arts, there are certain principles that have just been the same from the first time we started doing this, 100 years later. But then again, I'm going to go real quick. I'm falling off of where I was going with that. Look at judo. People will say judo is a traditional Japanese martial art, which is absolutely not true. People will say Shotokan is a traditional martial art, which again is absolutely not true. Shotokan and judo both were started by men that trained in long-standing traditional arts of Japan, took their modern education tools, which they got at universities, and applied that to the traditional model. They stripped away a lot of what the tradition had and created an educational format. That's why Shotokan and judo have the first systems with the colored belts. If anyone wants to tell you the story that the belts are from white to black, it's because of like the blood, sweat, and tears and dirt and all that stuff, no, that's not true. Funakoshi and Jigoro Kano both recognized that having a structure to education was important for students to recognize their progress and for the curriculums to be organized. So they came up with the Q system and the belt ranking within that system so that they could track progress and basically create the organizations that they did. So belts are not traditional. Belts are a modern addition by modern educators that took traditional arts and transformed them into modern martial arts, which are now viewed as traditional because we're 100 years later and they're still in existence, so now they're considered traditional, but they're really not. Those are taking traditional ways, transforming them to meet the needs of the society at that time, taking the tools of that society at the time and applying it back to create more effective education. So we can argue that some people are doing that today, that we're using the modern tools to change the way that students interact to make it different and modern. And again, that's where the new school and the old school, they butt heads. But if we stop fighting over new school, old school, look at positive engagement, look at goal setting and goal achievement, look at the ways that we are recording progress, the ways we are interacting, the ways we are building our businesses, the way we are developing our businesses to create positive means, we all can learn from each other. There's absolutely a value to what people consider to be traditional with the respect and the discipline and whatnot. And there's also a value to the new school people that may not do forms anymore, that may focus on more of the athletic aspect of it or whatever it is that they do. Everybody focusing on something and moving their bodies with other people in some kind of organized way towards higher level of fitness and mentality and whatever, it's all good. It's better than a guy sitting on the couch and, playing video games. And I'm not shitting on the guy who plays video games because, you know what, some people are meant to play video games and some people are meant to kick and punch and some people are meant to do takedowns and whatever. We all are meant to do whatever it is we want to do. So let's stop hating on each other for being, different. Different's cool. Different creates conversations, gives opportunities for me to talk about shit like this. So go do what you do, create a positive benefit for your community. Don't fight with the jerk off who wants to throw stones no matter what side of the argument you're on. Just do what you do and keep getting benefits, because your actions and your benefits and your solid business speaks louder than anything you can do on a vlog or a blog or on a Facebook post or whatever. So you don't need to tell people you're right, you just need to be right. And you'll be recognized for being right by your behavior, not by the words you say. Remember, the lion doesn't walk into the jungle and tell everyone the lion's here. The lion walks into the jungle and all the other animals just know. All right, see you later.